turned to this consultation paper that came through on Friday that spoke about the potential or the proposal to allow a mutual fund house to launch a second scheme in a subcategory where the scheme assets under management are more than 50,000 crore rupees. And the possible reason for this is that if you had a strategy, for example, in a small cap fund where you wanted to be nimble, and of course small cap funds have a requirement to have at least 65% invested in small caps, you want to be nimble as a fund like that. So you want to give the opportunity to fund house to have a separate set or a fresh start where you can invest in more small caps. As the assets under management rise, you need to maintain liquidity as well, and so you need to keep money in large cap funds, and maybe that changes what you originally thought was the thesis. So of course the jury is out on this, Mrin and Varun. I just wanted your initial views on what could occur, because seemingly what they're saying is that if this is done by a fund house, they would have to stop fresh inflows apart from SIPs into the original fund and have a similar strategy, but they've not defined what that similar strategy will be in the second scheme that is launched with the same fund manager. The problems that I foresee is that you could have a gravitation away from the original fund where people redeem and move to the new fund. Why would they stay there? There could be problems with performance. Mrin, would you agree?
Yeah, so I actually have a couple of questions. And, just looking from an investor's perspective, imagine you have two flexi cap funds, or if you have two large cap funds, where the investment objective is the same. Now, one of the points I did read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that you are also allowed to have a different fund manager, right? So, I think just from an investor's perspective, this might turn out to be a little confusing, because you have two funds that are available, and you like people might just get confused between these schemes, and for whatever reason, what happens if the assets of fund one goes down, right? So I'm not sure about these aspects, how it will really play out. And there's always this propensity, right, as we see that investors want something new all the time, and they could even end up just redeeming, thinking that, okay, this fund has already touched 50,000 crores, now it's not going to perform, so let's move into a new fund, because there the fund manager also has better flexibility to deploy the funds, right? So I think some of these I have a couple of these questions, honestly, more than a comment on the consultation paper. These are the questions that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fair to have questions at this point. Varun, at last count, at least my count, 1,791 schemes offered across various categories. And if you have additional schemes launched in these subcategories under the same threshold, if you had the paradox of choice before, you will have paralysis of choice now. Would you agree?
No, absolutely. I think there are already enough schemes and scheme categories and thematic and sectoral funds to cause immense amount of confusion at the investors level, and perhaps to some extent at the advisors in a distributor level as well. So I don't know how adding more to the same would help the audience in general. If anything, depending on how the strategy actually ends up being shaped, right? It just looks like there are a lot more questions than answers at this point in time with respect to how fund houses end up managing these strategies. But yes, we'll see. I think the devil lies in the detail, and we'll see what the regulator has to say more about it.
Thanks, Varun, so much for that, and Mrin as well. By the way, we had a conversation not too long back on Your Money Matters about how these very large schemes with very large assets under management, these old schemes, how they perform and how they have performed against their peers, and they've actually done pretty well if you think about it.